Hey, welcome back, and I hope you enjoy a little bit of imperfect production value today because it's very hard to get this group of knives on the camera without something not being quite right. So bear with me, but this is a fun video, a little bit of a twist on some others that I've done. The general thought here is, what are some of the hardest to acquire knives in my collection? I wanted to pull some of those out here and throw them down on the table and talk about why they're so hard to get, why it's so painful to try and pull these off of either a drop or the secondary or a website if you're super lucky at the right time. So we're just going to go down from the top here and then across here, but let's start with this Strider SMF Performance. And I'm going to be honest with you, this is not one that I know super well or even what the process is to get this, other than getting it on the secondary. I believe I grabbed this one in the Strider group, if I recall correctly. This is the same exact one, I believe, as the one that you may have seen on Metal Complex's channel, where it's got the, pretty sure it's got the same milling here. This is full titanium. It's the SMF Performance, so it's got the see-through pivot. And yeah, this is a pretty cool one here. Good action, pretty fun to play around with, and just a neat one to have in the collection. It's an interesting knife. I won't get into the details, but they don't make a lot of them in that configuration, and when they do, from what I understand, they go quickly, and I just had to get it on the secondary. The next one, the VC Edge interface, probably the most mind-blowing knife in the collection here. Oops, that's a good way of putting a little hole in your hand. Try that again in the correct direction. This one is insanely light, 1.5 ounces, and the only way you can get them are on his website when he gives a book spot, I believe. And you can see there where I flicked it into my hand there. Very just amazing engineering and very limited. I think he's made a little over 100 of these total over the last year or two that he's been in business. So very hard to get and very impressive, and just something that if you ever have a chance to, I highly recommend you try and get your hands on, and try not to stick into your hand like I did just there. Let's keep going here. This one is the Hawk Deadlock, and it's the C model. It's the sort of more EDC, smaller sized one. Carbon fiber inlays in this case. Amazing, amazing, super strong lockup, just great action. Really cool knives, and one that you have to get when they do drops, I believe, but one that I got from a purchase of 6 knives on the secondary in this case. You know what? I'm probably not going to even pick them up. It's a little too tedious, so let's just go through them. This is the Mosier Scourge. The Mosier Scourge is a knife that he sells as first come, first serve, or occasionally does book spots. Takes over a year to get one of his book spots. This is a slightly older model, but got one from a collector buddy. That's got an amazing Instagram, by the way. Won't drop names here, but if you know who loves his Mosiers, you might know who that is. Really cool custom knives, great action, strong detent, really neat premium materials, and not something you're going to get on DLT trading, unfortunately. SPK Lamia, number 100 and what is that one? Number 144, I think, if I recall correctly. He has only made under 200 of these. He's working on a new version now. This is version 1. He's working on a new version where he messed around with the lock bar insert and some of the milling on the inside, but very hard to get. Super cool one in all stonewash here. Haven't seen many of those out there. Does a lot of ano and other sorts of coating. He's lately been doing these on Instagram, on his Instagram for his drops, but pretty varied in how you have to get those, and very limited and popular washer knives. Very high quality, but not for everyone, I'd say. This one's pretty cool. This one is the Brown Knives Mini FSD Prototype number 1. This is the first one that was ever made. You can actually see he puts it here on the knife. You can see proto number 1 there. Really just a cool fidgety knife, and watch the videos if you haven't already, but that one's particularly rare because it's prototype number 1. He does these drops on his website, and it's first come, first serve on the speed of how fast you can basically check out. So a lot like going off of a website during a drop, but it's his website. This is the Triaxis Midnight. This one's number 4 that was made, so one of the early ones that was made. I think he's only made 60 of these now or something, so he's been doing these for like a year and a half, I think. Super light, a lot like the Rosie, but many fewer that are out there, so pretty hard to get. Got this one on the secondary, but I did just randomly find one that he sold on his website the other day. A friend said, hey, check this out, there's one on his website, and I just bought it. There's literally one. Bought it right before another friend bought it, actually, so I might sell it to him now that I got this one. But I got this one on the secondary on Blade Forums in pristine condition. I have a lot of Rosies to pick from here. Probably the rarest one is not this one, but number 10 that I have. It's like the 10th one ever made. But man, these Silver Surfer variants where they do this fine milling with what they call golf putter milling sell out so fast. So I put this one up here because they're just so hard to get, but it's probably not the most rare. Of the Rosies in my collection, it'd be very hard for me to, I'd include a lot of Rosies if I had to do that, but they're all the same model, so I chose not to only do one of these, but the Rosies are super hard to get. This Winterblade factors out here because it's a Magnacut. There were only 80 made, and I'm definitely proud to have that one in the collection because it's Magnacut blade steel. Obviously, these are hard to get as it is and sell out super quickly now that they're starting to do them as drops, but just generally hard to get knives. And then this is a hard to get knife. In this case, they were made by or dropped through River's Edge Cutlery, I think it was, if I recall correctly, or I can't remember which one it was. It wasn't River's Edge, but it's slipping my mind who did those. But lucky to have one. I'm trying to look around if I can see the box real quickly, but now let's leave it. This one I have out here may look like just another Tactile Knife Co. Rockwall, but this one you may see here as a flipper tab. They only made like maybe a few hundred of those, and they're pretty hard to come by, so all the Tactile fans love those flipper versions, and I have number 294. That's not right, number 194, which they only numbered the first 200 or 300 of them. Then they made a few hundred more, and then they switched it to the thumb stud version, and they don't make these flipper tab ones anymore, so that's kind of cool. This is a GB sham. It means like Gareth Bull made it. Sham, it's one of the older ones. Very hard to come by. This was made in 2017 as my experts estimate, and it's very fidgety and drop shut on bearings. In pretty good condition, although it was carried. The blade's in pristine condition with no scratches. Really cool old Gareth Bull Shamwari there. Up here, and I'll just maybe peek this up a little bit. We have a custom Demko in the Ultem with the tie liners. Very hard to come by one of those. I think he only did maybe 10 like that, and only one with this particular blade shape. It's kind of like a modified, like drop, maybe call it like a Spanto or something. It's like a drop point, spear point, Tanto. Very, very cool blade shape and very cool configuration. You don't see many of those sellable. I think I've seen 10 maybe through the table and probably 3 on the secondary in the last year or something. It's very rare. Just a good old Demko AD20 in titanium, but they're just getting harder and harder to come by. I see fewer and fewer being listed. It was like, for a while they were insane, 1,500, $2,000, and then they dropped down to 1,000, 1,100, and then they just disappeared. No one was selling them again, and now they're starting to float up again in the 1,200, 1,300 range. So very hard to come by these. That one's in 20 CV, but I also have one in 3V with no slot. The next one here is a Demko AD20 compact. Very hard to come by, custom also. Only probably 20 to 40 of those were made, if I had to guess, but I don't know exactly. Very, very neat 3V blade steel in this case. That one was Magnacut, by the way, which is cool. Speaking of which, this is an AD22. Only 25 maybe were made. Maybe only 22 made. I think they may have messed with that and only done 22 or something. But very few of these made. This one's also Magnacut, and this one's number 9. Always carry knife. Only 35 made. This is the Brown Knives Parabolic. This was his first model. It's a integral, and very hard to come by those, especially here in 2023. I've only seen like one other exchange hands in the last 6 months or something like that. Just very, very few of those get listed, and very neat to have a key piece of Brown Knives history, as I live, 30 minutes from Blaine, Washington, where Craig Brown makes those. The very sought after Hinderer fullered non-flipper, so there's no flipper tab, and he has the fuller on there. And this one happens to have a monkey edge full titanium scale on it. Very hard to come by. I don't know how many have been made, but not a lot. And when they do sell, they command a very high price. I saw a guy list one for about $1,000 the other day. If you think about that being a $425 table knife in general, when you think about a Hinderer XM-18, that's a pretty big deal. This one's 3.5, which I believe is the only one that's made in that config. This is one that you would not expect to see on this list, but is pretty rare now that I think about it. Rambo Russ. I think he made around 300 of these. Keep me honest in the comments if I'm off on that. But those have really nice, I think it's M390 blade steel, really nice pattern on the other side with some milling on there. And it's just a really nice action. It is a see-through pivot like that SMF. And I believe they're made in Riyadh, and then he has them shipped to Australia and QCs them there and then sends them out. But you had to get those off his website. Maybe $300, $290 was about the price. And I don't know if he'll make more of those. I think he's working on some other versions with other milling on both sides or something like that, but that's the original, or maybe the second run of them. This here is the Eutsler, I think it's pronounced DUK, D-U-K, Daily Utility Knife, I think is what that stands for. And this one's Magnacut with a Zirc pivot, I should say zirconium thumb stud, Zircatile on the pivot. And then I guess you'd call that a sunrise or whatever, horizon on the handle. Very hard to come by those for sure. He does sometimes 3 or 6 during a drop, and he does them on Instagram and they're gone. Hundreds of people respond to 3 knives. It's a very low chance of getting one, under 1 in 100. Here's a really cool variant of the Brown Knives Cortex. In the mail, I have the one I should put up here, but it's not here yet, which is that I got #1, prototype #1. So this one's standing in because it's one of the rarest and probably most in-demand variants of something like a Cortex, where it has a dark washed blade, which is very uncommon for Craig Brown at Brown Knives. And then it has a beautiful Zircatile bolster on both sides. Just a super cool variant, the best one I've ever handled. But the prototype that's coming in is just basic milling, and it has, how would I describe it? It's version 1, I believe, so it wouldn't have this little ring around the bolster. And it has, I think, micarta inlays. So really excited to have that one. That one would stand in for this in the future. And then last here, I have the Demko AD20.5 in Damascus. This is made in Taiwan, unlike some of their knives, but it's 3V. I think only 100 of these were made, and they were going to make some in Sharkfoot, but I haven't seen them yet, so I don't know if they're out. But just a really cool variant here. So that's it. These are all very hard to get. Either you're going to get them at a table at a show, on a website during a drop, but these are not something that you can go to any website any day of the week and grab, unfortunately. These custom versions, for instance, there's in some cases only one of them made, like that one. In this particular configuration, only one made in this config, and so on. So it's really neat to have these and to get to enjoy them, and hope you enjoyed this with me as well. So hope you can find some cool rare knives for your own collection, and feel free to subscribe, and throw some comments in there about what you saw today. Thanks for stopping by, and I will see you on the next one. Take care.